I had Nolly Williams on Expert Mentors Live in February of 20. And he said one of the top niches to pay attention to is notice of defaults. And then everything that happened in 2021, which just delayed the process. And then I had him back on earlier this year, and he said one of the top niches is notice of defaults. And it's interesting talking to people, and they're like, well, there's not that many notice of defaults out there. And then hearing the statistics and hearing what Kevin's sharing, and just all of the examples and the things that we know to be true. So they're there. That's, those opportunities are going to be there. Our messages, the guaranteed sale, cash offers are really going to resonate. But from your vantage point, which I love, just in the high net worth, and you're seeing the massive drops in property values and where you're at, and things still not moving, like, kind of perspective real estate wise. I mean, like, what are you experiencing? What are you seeing from your vantage point?
Yeah, it's super fascinating here, because things went up so dramatically fast, and then now, they were massive shift in a pretty short period of time. I mean, as fast as it went up, as it seems to be coming down. It's interesting. There's in this community, there's a lot of people that got hurt too, right? And so a lot of people have moved out that can't afford to live here anymore. That's been something that we've seen a lot of our friends and people that we met when we first got here that have already left and gone back to the States and whatnot. And then you've got a large, base of crypto folks that live here as well. They got destroyed as well. But yeah, so it's definitely, it feels like it's more real here, and than maybe, what it is, in other parts of the country. I think that, when people get hit and their high net worth, it changes behavior pretty quickly, right? In terms of what they're willing to invest in or buy. It's been definitely palatable here.
Yeah. I can, just hearing some of the stories that you've shared, and it's just really fascinating. And then, I think what makes us so unique, not only being able to work with so many agents across, the country over the years, but, just the multiple perspectives from actually running businesses in polar opposite markets. Right. Mm-hmm. And so understanding, really kind of even from the Latin market of really, really what's going on. And, I haven't caught up with Stacey Reedy in a few weeks, but, as your dad, kind of mentioned, anything kind of what's happening, in the Latin area.
Yeah. It's slowed down dramatically. I think this is pretty well everywhere. Everybody I talk to, buyers are just sitting on the fence. They're kind of paralyzed as to what to do. Same with sellers. I mean, should we sell? Should we wait? They've got equity. I think that's one big difference in this market versus the last, is it seems, and Kevin, you might have a little more data on this than I would, but it seems to me like, there's going to be room for quite an adjustment in real estate. And these people probably can sell. Most of them, unless they bought in the last couple of years, would have the ability to sell. And I think the statistics I was looking at from KCM in the Dallas market was, in 2020 to 2021, real estate increased by 50%, appreciation 50% in 2-year period. Wow. That's just, it's insane. So anybody who bought, within 2 years or longer certainly have the ability to sell, if we get a hold of them,
Well, and that's where I feel that for many, it's when you go back to the last time we had a massive shift in the market was 14 years ago. And so you look at, the average agent's been in the market, maybe 5 years, 7 years in the business. And so, as leaders, it is so important to make sure that you're spending the time with your agents so they have some success. And that's what we're just seeing. So many agents that are out there that are, they may look like a duck on the surface, nice and calm, but down below they're like, their fins are paddling, their flaps are paddling super fast because they're worried, they're concerned. And so the biggest thing we're focused on is audience and message. Like, who are we targeting? Like, you could say defaults, but it's like that's a big spread. Like you said, if you bought in the last 12 months, you're in trouble. I mean, if you have to sell, like, it's a bad situation, because more than likely you didn't put an enormous amount of money down and you're going to sell at a loss. So, it's really, what's that exit strategy? And it's probably keeping it and renting it. I don't know, but it depends on the circumstance. Versus if you go back, 2, if not 3 years, and before, there's definitely some equity there. But even with those people, it's a matter of, it's all messaging. So when you're reaching out and you're on the phone, email, whatever it is, the words you use is really, really important to resonate with them, and just offer those solutions. Going back to postcards and I go back to the book I loved, Tell to Win, tell a story they can relate to with an outcome they desire. And that's where we're seeing our wins, and being consistent, because many agents in this market in the last, I'd say 12 months, aren't patient. And so they're used to the wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And they got the deal done. And that doesn't happen now. You got to be persistent, and you got to be consistent.
Yeah. Cause so, agents listening into this and hearing that, what Kevin just said, I mean, like, what are some of the activities, that, delayed gratification, although you can manufacture wins daily, like what are a lot of the activities, or a handful of activities that agents that, like Kevin was sharing, that have only been in the game, 5, 6, 7 years, like where do they need to be given their attention and their focus?
Key to the whole game is going to be, are you following up when people are ready to actually do something? And it's not going to be the wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. As Kevin was saying, it's going to be the agents that stay in touch, build relationship, try to genuinely understand and care, and are consistent and persistent. I think Kevin said it best. That's going to be where the game is won. And those agents that don't learn that are at risk for sure.
Yeah. And so, one of the things that I noticed at boot camp on Monday, when I was walking them through just even the goal setting exercise, right? The personal action plan that we've used I know you've used for 20 years. And, ultimately getting clear on the targets and being ultimately responsible of how we hit our goals or we didn't. Just really how many of them didn't understand even that concept of how to reverse out, a revenue target, and, what's their average sales price, their average commission, just even getting it down to really into the fundamentals. And, anybody listening in that's struggling with that, if you're kind of, 1 to 2 deals per month average, you're struggling, you're on your own, to me, I think you've got 2 options. 1, get on a great team, or 2, get into some great coaching. Because if not, I don't know, the deck is not stacked in your favor. I just noticed that, just even with the simplicity of, okay, how many deals do you need to do? And then what are the activities to make that true has really been, it was eye-opening to see how many people that just didn't even know, some of the things that I think we just take, just because we've done it for so long, we take for granted.
I'm curious. Hey, Kevin, I'm curious, what are the scenarios that you're running into most often with these notice of defaults? What situation did they get themselves into where they were unable to make payments? Is there something that you're seeing that's a common thread around the situations, or no?
I think every market is different. Certain things we're running into with our Birmingham team versus our team in Colorado. They're different. Example, in Colorado, we had such a spike, and people were having to reach and barely qualify just to get into a home. You're having rising HOA fees. I mean, I think in general, people are just strapped, and they have any little bleep or burp in their income, in their job, and they're strapped and they're tight. There's just no buffer. And that's where, you hear a lot of people talking about, the credit card debt is at an all-time high, and people are tapping into all of their equity positions and extracting that. And that's where I really feel, based on the numbers, what we're watching, that January, February is going to hit people really hard. But typically we're seeing it's from the financial side of just, they can't afford it.
Yeah. Makes sense. I mean, when you look at, the average, person's spend, I mean, their incomes haven't gone up the last 2 years, but the inflation has been through the roof. So everything that you purchase, everything that you had a budget around, is probably blown. And if you didn't have a lot of room and a lot of savings, then you certainly would be at risk. I can see that.
There was a gentleman told me, he was dropping some stuff off at KT last week, and he said, he had moved out of the DFW area. And this goes back to, I think, what Kev just said. their payment, they were barely able to get in there with it, but with the rise of property taxes, just pushed their payment to where it just, because I mean, he said, shit, he goes, our property taxes. And we know, I mean, even when we sold before we moved back up here, I mean, it was, 10, 11,000 a year. And so just that right there, as that continues to rise, pushes that payment over, I could see. And that was a pain point for him. And that's why they ultimately sold, and, relocated up into Oklahoma. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely is concerning for a lot of people. Awesome. Kev, anything else that that you guys are kind of seeing, or that's resonating as you guys are taking this strategy and kind of where you guys are focused?
I'd say the big thing that where we're getting most of our wins right now with our agents and the growth of our agents and our team is really being hyper focused with them on where they're spending their time. And so again, I go back, not to pick on the agent that's been in the business a few years. Life's all about timing and opportunities, but those, when agents get in, there was so much abundance. And now that the market is contracted, it's really looking at going back to what are the 5 or 6 key pillars of lead generation. And people, get tired of hearing that on our podcast, but it's like, that's really the focus is, you may not be that person that wants to call cold leads. That's fine. What is it that's really in line with your skill set? If you're are you the social worker type where you want to go, be face to face and help people? Great. Then go farm your neighborhood, whatever it is, really helping them go deep on what resonates with them. And then they're going to do those day-to-day activities and win and succeed. But that's where we're going, is just, we're spending a lot of time with our agents. We started something here about 30 days ago where we're doing 15 minutes called Scripts on Fire on Friday. And it's 15 minutes on what's working. And we chop it off right at 15 minutes. But it's those little bitty, what you would call deposits that we're making that make a significant difference in sharing the wins.
Yeah. I had a conversation this morning, and she was, Pam was telling me that, Pam Martin, she was telling me that, like she's just kind of shifted a little bit right now to focus on, when she's talking with sellers, kind of on the coming soon process, and really getting them to understand, that component. So there's always moves, right? There in we talk about that from Ben Horowitz's book, Hard Thing About Hard Things. The only time you don't have a move is just when you give up. So there's always an angle, there's always an opportunity. and what's that message that's going to resonate with who your audience is. And I know Kyle Davis here in Norman is really running hard with the offer, cash offer. And he actually, just bought his first home with that offer. And so, those people are listening to that message, and it's a message that, Stacy and Reedy still run to this day in the Lawton, in the Lawton market, the guaranteed, your home sold guaranteed, or I'll buy it. And it's those type of messages that are really starting to, continue to really start to resonate for a lot of people.